Hi folks, welcome back. Dennis Vitoza, also known as Noodles, and today we're going to be talking about a friend of the show. Not really, but we did talk about her a few days ago, Kylie Brewer. Kylie is a digital content creator, activist, and writer based in Chicago, primarily known for her presence on TikTok and Instagram. She started off as a feminist, got destroyed by Andrew Wilson in a debate, and then sharply pivoted to hating white people so she could keep grifting off the left.
What the
Now, in our last video, we looked at that evolution, the contradictions in her own statements, and the latest drama surrounding her. Kylie was threatening to leave the internet because she claimed she was being harassed by white nationalists. I don't think that's actually what's happening. This is something you constantly see from people on the left when they're facing criticism or backlash for their behavior. They label it harassment or extremism to give themselves moral cover. And as we saw in the last video, and I suggest you watch it, Kylie appears to pathologically enjoy this cycle. She causes drama, cries about the backlash, says she's leaving the internet, never actually leaves, comes back, restarts to grift, and does the whole thing all over again. Well, now we're at the next stage of that cycle. Kylie posted an update about this supposed harassment campaign and says things got serious enough that she contacted the police. So let's start there because she made a video explaining what supposedly happened, and this is what she had to say.
The FBI has taken my case seriously, but the local police department in New York City did not. Cops came over and took a report from me because I had what I believe to be credible threats on my life, including my location. And the male cop showed up. It was two. It was him and his female partner, and he said, well, you're a public figure. Isn't this kind of stuff gonna happen every week? Are we gonna have to come every week? What kind of content do you post? It's very polarizing, isn't it? And then they spent 10 minutes, I swear to God, scrolling through each one of my videos and reading the comments on it and seeing what people's reactions were. And then they left, gave me their business card, and said, just go on about your day-to-day life, despite the fact that I was getting credible threats on my location. And they did not believe me when I said that I haven't posted my address online. They were like, you probably accidentally posted your address online somewhere. Point being, it was fucking disgusting, and a lot of cops are incredibly conservative, even in big cities like New York. The way that I was treated and discarded with
What does
actual
politics
threats
have to do with
me and made me feel physically unsafe was genuinely repulsive. And that's what happens in conservative minds. When you align yourself too closely with the left, they stop having sympathy for you. They start to literally see you as subhuman in a way, or at least that's how it felt, the way that I was being treated.
Again, receipts or it didn't happen. As we saw in our last video, Kylie has a pattern of going around and making these sorts of stories. There's one video specifically that we looked at where she claims she was chased by a group of young white men who then threatened her, or I don't even remember specifically what she alleges happened, but Kylie has a history of making these kinds of claims. At this point, it feels like she's pulling a page out of the Juicy Smollett book and constantly crying wolf.
Got him!
Here's the thing. If the conduct Kylie is describing is actually happening, it would be egregious. If she's saying members of the NYPD refuse to help her because of her political beliefs, that's unacceptable, and she could file a complaint. Police are there to serve people regardless of their political opinions or political leanings, but instead of providing receipts for what supposedly happened, Kylie immediately turns it into a broader political narrative about conservative cops refusing to protect leftists. And obviously, people on the left love this sort of confirmation bias, which is exactly what she's doing here. She's flashing news articles from the Atlantic, of all places, a former home of Taylor Lorenz, which I think says everything you need to know about the Atlantic, to reinforce something she already believes. But cops aren't supposed to treat you differently based on political affiliation. They're supposed to protect and serve regardless. And if we're going to reduce everything to political leanings, you could make the opposite argument just as easily. Kylie lives in New York. I live in LA. These are overwhelmingly liberal cities. You'd expect at least some cops in these cities to be liberals, but that doesn't fit her narrative. Instead, the argument becomes a lot of cops are conservatives, therefore I can't trust the police. She's feeding into a fear people already have of being treated unjustly by police and using that fear to support her own theories. And look, people can have legitimate reasons to be skeptical of police, but there's a difference between a grounded, substantive criticism of law enforcement and growing up with an inaccurate portrayal of how police are supposed to operate because you've constantly been told that the entire system is against you. If your parents, your political community, or the media constantly feed you these narratives, you can end up with a completely distorted picture in your mind. In reality, there are numerous layers of accountability within police departments and government itself for the kind of behavior Kylie is describing to be systematically tolerated, you'd have to believe there are essentially no meaningful checks and balances anywhere in New York City government. And that makes even less sense when you consider the politics of New York. You have Zohran Mamdani as mayor, a DSA member, and somebody on the far left who has talked about policies involving government acquisition of private property, dismantling the police.
Wow!
So if Kylie's argument is that conservative police officers can simply refuse to protect leftists without consequences, you'd also have to believe that this overwhelmingly liberal city government provides absolutely no accountability for them. And then you actually look at the captions that Kylie puts on this video. She says things like, many leftists have been killed with advance warning because police are conservative and do not care, nor do they care about black or brown people. Okay, set your data.
That one there was a violation.
Give me something beyond individual anecdotal cases that we could sit here and debate endlessly, like the Alex Preddy video. Instead, one of the pieces she flashes on screen is from The Atlantic, where the headline, Why Cops Hate Liberals. There's no date shown, but when you actually look it up, it's from 1969. 1969, folks. Kylie had to dig into 1969 for a piece by sociologist Seymour Martin Lipset. How long did she have to dig to find something that supports her narrative? Again, this is pure confirmation bias. She's starting with a conclusion and then digging backwards until she finds something, anything, that appears to validate her narrative. And she obviously doesn't stop there. Kylie later makes claims about the NYPD and Malcolm X's assassination, but again, look at what she's doing to support this broader argument about police today. She's reaching all the way back to the 1960s and 70s and cherry-picking historical material instead of presenting actual contemporary data demonstrating what she's claiming. You can't make this stuff up, folks. This is genuinely low IQ reasoning. If you're going to make a sweeping claim that police don't care about leftists or black or brown people because cops are conservative, then show the evidence. Don't give me decades-old articles and data and expect that to prove your entire argument. Anyway, after Kylie published this video, people on X started pointing out another problem with her story. Accounts like Postman Schmarg called out the fact that Kylie is now complaining about being doxxed, when according to him, she has made a career out of doxing other people, and he posted this compilation of Kylie allegedly doxing people.
Kylie, welcome back to my series on exposing different races every week, part 5. Who is Angela and Nevaeh? They are best friends from Oregon. Yes, I know these girls are young, but unfortunately you guys do need to learn a lesson.
And we have a whole series where I've been exposing racists as a way to make racists afraid again, because accountability is important. The FBI is taking my case seriously, but the local police are. I'm Kylie, and I'm being harassed so severely that I completely use your help. A lot of people have been coming up with rumors about me that I'm a Zionist Jew, that despite the fact that I was getting critical threats on my location. And they did not believe me when I said that I haven't posted violence online. They were like, you probably align yourself too closely with the left. They stop having sympathy for you. They start to literally see you as subhuman in a way, or at least.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is obviously evident to anybody with a pair of eyes and ears.
That is totally inappropriate.
Doxing in general should not be encouraged, and that doesn't mean Kylie can't complain if she's being doxed herself, but the hypocrisy is screaming pretty loudly here. Either way, Kylie didn't stop there because, as I mentioned, this is a cycle. She cries about harassment, then goes right back to posting the same outlandish allegations and claims about white people that got her in trouble in the first place. She gets backlash, cries about the backlash, says she got doxed, says she's contacting the police, and goes right back to the exact same behavior that started the whole thing, and the cycle just keeps on repeating itself. Anyway, that's exactly what's happening now. Kylie went right back to posting, and this is what she had to say.
This might be a hot take, but if you're a white person and you're not even open to dating other races, then you are racist. Because you're seriously gonna sit here and tell me that on a planet with 7 billion people that you don't find any person attractive who isn't white? People are objectively attractive regardless of skin color. There are black women, black men, brown women, brown men who are gorgeous. So for you to say that, it's either an extreme amount of cope or you were just so racist that you can't even recognize the beauty in those individuals. Or there's option number 2, which is probably more likely that you've just been taught implicitly or explicitly since you were a child not to date outside the race, because unfortunately a lot of parents will tell their kids white is right or some variation of that. So if you are just completely unwilling to engage in dating or like other interactions with other races, I consider you to be racist yourself. That's why if I date other white people, my standards are really high. Like, you have to be actively anti-racist and you literally have to be willing to date other races, because I cannot and will not have a partner that upholds white supremacy, because I find it absolutely repulsive. So if this is you, you might want to examine your internal biases and do a little bit of work on yourself. Try to understand, why is interracial dating such a big deal to you? Clearly see other races as inferior, or it's one of the reasons I said before.
Wait a minute, hold on, lady.
Stupid.
Why are you policing who people are dating? Why do you care so much?
Get out of here.
Why is it any of your business who somebody chooses to see romantically? This is crazy.
Stop it.
Get some help.
Remember years ago when liberals used to tell conservatives, get the hell out of my bedroom? Well, now liberals are all the way up in your bedroom telling who you should date. And if you don't agree, apparently you're morally reprehensible.
Women.
Karen, just get the hell out of my bedroom. It's none of your business who I want to see, who I find attractive, or why I find them attractive. Damn! And you're not going to coerce me into dating somebody I don't want to date by threatening to call me a racist. I don't give a shit. Who cares? This is beyond stupid. These people are literally policing who you want to date, folks. These people are insufferable. They want to dominate and control every aspect of your life and demoralize you until you fall in line. That's ultimately what this comes down to, ideological and political control. Huh? Well, it starts with things that seem small, except controlling who people date isn't actually a small thing. The formation of families is perhaps one of the most important things for the maintenance of a society. So if you can ideologically control that, if you can shame and coerce people into making deeply personal decisions they otherwise wouldn't make, then suddenly you've extended political ideology into one of the most private parts of people's lives. And guess what? Now, they've just wrangled you right into their plot.
I'm a firm believer that white children, especially teens, need to be punished for racism. And very harshly at that, because there are tons of black children who haven't even made it to adulthood because of racist white people's behavior. There are people like Trayvon Martin or Emmett Till that have been murdered. Everyone's always saying, oh my God, they're just teens, like they don't mean it. But those teens could also physically harm other people. They could commit acts of violence against other people because if they start to see black and brown children as subhuman, guess what they're gonna do? That leads to name calling and bullying until eventually assault and potentially life-threatening injuries from being beaten. There is no age at which we have to protect white children's feelings. Like, white children should be protected. I myself was not taught about racism at all. I didn't fully learn the extent to which the system was bad until I was in college. And that is not okay. That is not acceptable. Luckily, I was able to deconstruct because, again, I was raised in a MAGA household. I'm 23 years old. But a lot of white children just become even more racist as they get older. So that's why it's so important to cut it literally out
45.
as soon as possible.
So let me see if I can get this straight. You want parents to physically punish white kids for racism ASAP? ASAP. Not even waiting a second, no conversation, just straight up to punishment. Here, little Timmy, here's the belt. Ah, Daddy, how dare you look at the black man the wrong way? This is insane. And then look at the examples that she cites to justify this argument. Emmett Till, a case from 1955, and Trayvon Martin, a completely different case from 2012 that became the subject of a highly controversial self-defense trial. George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, got into a physical altercation with Martin, shot and killed him, claimed self-defense, and was ultimately acquitted on second-degree murder and manslaughter. That case was scrutinized across the country for years and obviously became part of a much broader national conversation about race. But she's presenting these two completely different cases, separated by nearly 6 decades, as though they establish that black children today should be terrified that white children are going to walk outside and lynch them. Let me tell you something, folks. That's not happening. And if you're going to make an argument this serious, you have to accurately represent the history you're citing. And look, Emmett Till's murder was a horrific killing, but that doesn't mean you can jump from Emmett Till in 1955 to Trayvon Martin in 2012 and then use those two cases to characterize how white children behave toward black children in America today. And I'm obviously not excusing any tragic killing or any kind of race-based violence. It's not what we're doing here, but if you want to have this conversation honestly, you have to stick to the facts. She clearly has no interest in doing that. She's taking completely different events from completely different time periods in American history and using them to create what I see as anti-white propaganda and stoke up as much racial animus towards white people as possible. And the worst part is, I would imagine a significant portion of the people consuming this are either young white girls who are buying into this garbage, or black, brown, and other minority viewers who could take content like this as a justification for being afraid of white people and afraid of the world altogether. Now, to be fair, I haven't gone through her comments yet. We were going to do that in a minute, although that may actually be a little difficult because I just opened the window here and apparently her comments are disabled. So I'm not going to pretend I know exactly who her audience is, but regardless of who's watching it, this is highly divisive content. It's not helping anybody. It's just encouraging people to look at each other through the lens of racial fear and resentment.
Casting leftist women is a sexual act for the far right, and this proves it. I've had so many people commenting and asking me if they could be my cuck-servative and basically wanting to serve me and send me money in my DMs. And also tons and tons of men saying, oh, I hate you so much. Also, when are you dropping the OnlyFans link? And it just shows how much of politics is about sex for these men, and they are depraved and quite literally only ever thinking about that. And the funniest thing is, there are so many men saying, oh, you're so ugly, like you're so ugly in my comments, or like whatever other insults they want to throw at me. But then they comment a bunch of AI generated pictures designed to make me look ugly. If I was actually ugly, why aren't you commenting like pictures of me? I've had to leave my comments off because of these men, but I just want everyone who is watching this to know, if they have decided to target you, it's because of what you're saying, and it's true. They are being called out, and what's going on online right now is a form of gender-based violence. And it's even worse for white women who are leftists, because white men perceive you as being a race traitor and going against the grain. I try my best to ignore these men, but they are absolutely repulsive, and they keep commenting like every day. So again, that's why my comments are off, but I hope to turn them back on again soon.
It's so interesting to me how these leftist women always default to calling everything gendered violence. Getting trolled on the internet is what it is. People are trying to get under your skin, and whether they accomplish that or not is ultimately up to you. You also have the freedom to ignore it. You can log off. And we have to note, by the way, that everything she's showing here, all of her evidence, this is all anecdotal. She says all they want and then shows one comment. Then she claims the majority of them and shows another comment. These are a handful of anonymous accounts that she's presenting as evidence. There are millions upon millions of people on the internet, and you're actively claiming that you're being hunted down by thousands or even millions of white supremacists, yet you can only produce a handful of comments to support that narrative. At some point, you're trying to so desperately to make the evidence fit the narrative that it's not even funny anymore.
Relax.
It's just getting more and more pathetic. And that's what's interesting to watch in real time. Anything said about Kylie, to Kylie, or even in response to something Kylie herself comments on gets reframed so she can build this broader leftist narrative around why men, the right, or conservative politics. And it's so blatantly dishonest. It's right there for you to see if you look at it objectively. Needless to say, I think it's a grift because none of this is grounded in substance. It's just cherry-picked facts, things taken out of context, false equivalencies, hasty generalizations. It's an extremely fallacious presentation of political discourse and rhetoric. There's no actual discussion meant to be had here. It's just fear-mongering up and down, followed by Kylie presenting herself as a victim anytime she receives criticism.
Boring.
Apparently, criticism of Kylie Brewer is now straight up gendered violence. At least that's how this chick sees it. And unfortunately, if that really is her genuine position, and I'm going to be charitable here and assume she's saying things she actually believes rather than simply pushing whatever makes her a buck, then she is so far gone that I don't know how you have a productive conversation with somebody like that. I mean, how do you talk to somebody who immediately defaults to calling anything you say about them or about their logic as violence?
Disgusted I am, how depressed I am.
Anyway, folks, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Share with a friend if you think they'd enjoy it as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.